types, because we talked about letters of credit where you can just you have a guarantee from the bank that John is going to pay. All right, that's it, nothing else. If I talk about collection already, collection is the last part of this seminar. In collection, banks are not responsible. All right, so you probably need insurance to make them responsible. That's another payment. But here, banks, basically, they are not responsible for payment, but they are giving you a guarantee. But some of these types of letter of credit is giving that responsibility that they are going to pay you if the guy in, let's say, in Cambodia is not paying, for example, by some problem that is beyond his control. Okay, if there is any, let's say, in business we have those force majeure, right? Earthquake, coronavirus, whatever, a very huge very huge floods, that he would never get the goods because of that. So he was saying, like, I can't pay. All right, so the bank would assume that responsibility depending on what type of credit you were buying. And we're going to see those types of credits, and they are here, in fact. Revocable letter of credit, revocable, confirmed, transferable, revolving, deferred or usance, standby, letter of credit at sight, red clause, letter of credit. So we're going to start this with a video, and then I will explain one by one, but I try to make it just explain the essentials, then it won't take much time. Okay, let's listen to this. This is a nice video relating to letter of credit. It doesn't only talk about the types of letter of credit, but more than that. So you can learn more by means of reviewing a little bit and then reinforcing what you have learned, and learning something new. Let's have a look. Just tell me if there is any problem. Okay, let me make sure that it is inside this thing. Okay. Oops, what is this? Can you see from there?
Yes, I can, sir.
Yes.
From them, no sound. Oh. Very, very low. Let me see. This is 100%. And this here is so it still can't. Anyway, the sound of the video is not very good, so Anyway, I have these things in my slide. I will explain them, so don't worry. Okay. I even have more in my slide than in the video. The video, they just talk about a few of these. So there's no problem at all. Now, I just want to make sure that, let me see. Am I? So can you, yeah, it's there. Yo, now, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes, sir, yes.
Okay. They can hear me, right? Yes, okay. Yeah, the first one is revocable letter of credit. Revocable letter of credit is not very common because I would start with that. It can be canceled and it can be amended, okay? But people do not really like it when, you know, you have done it and then you cancel it, meaning that it doesn't make any effect anymore. So that is revocable letter of credit. In doing so, the issuing bank does not need to make the agreement or even notify the beneficiary, which means that when it is revocable, right from the beginning, it's written there that it's revocable. Then when somebody wants to cancel the operation, the bank is not even under any obligation to get to the beneficiary, to get to me, for example. They just cancel it. And they might just send a notification like your credit has been, I mean, the letter of credit that will pay you is canceled. Just like that, for example. So very few people maybe is using revocable letter of credit for some reasons. It's not very popular. Next, irrevocable letter of credit. It is the one that cannot be withdrawn, cannot be canceled, cannot be amended by the opening bank without any agreement of the beneficiary. The beneficiary, if he has engaged in some other transaction with the buyer, with the importer, then they might they might give some kind of agreement, like we're going to stop this this operation and we're not going to use this letter of credit anymore. But it's right from the beginning, it's written irrevocable. Okay. All right. So we also need to know that according to Uniform Customs and Practice of Commercial Documentary Credits 500, which is a document we will send to you if you need it, and it is needed for this. Letter of credit is not, if it is not marked as being revocable, then it should be taken as irrevocable. As I said before, the revocable letter of credit is very, very rare. Most of the letter of credit are irrevocable. You cannot change or amend them. But when it's not written revocable, then meaning that the document has no indication whether it is revocable or irrevocable. When it's like that, then it's always irrevocable by law. This is the law. This is international, law for this. This UCP, basically we call it UCP 500. We will use this in a case study we will have a little later today. I will see the content. Now, another one is confirmed letter of credit. It may be in exporters' interest to obtain the promise of a bank in their own country to pay by adding their confirmation to the letter of credit in addition to the issuing bank's promise. The issuing bank is having a promise that, you know, the money is going to be given to the exporter, but the one who is in the importer's country, the bank you are dealing with there is also having a service that can give you a chance to get paid if to pay for the bill. It means to pay for you, to pay for the importer, to pay for the exporter, I'm sorry, the one who is sending goods if there is a problem. But this is done with confirmation of letter of credit. The letter of credit should be written confirmed. So there's fees for letter of credit that is guaranteeing transaction, guaranteeing payment that will happen later. But there is also another fees to be paid when it is confirmed, like if there is no payment, this bank is paying. Okay, so that is a confirmed letter of credit. Now, transferable letter of credit, as the name suggests, is a kind of intermediary. It operates between manufacturer and user, and it's possible for the letter credit to be raised showing agent. Well, this transferable letter credit is a kind of the one you use when there is a problem, then you change buyer. Let's say somebody in our friend in let's say Vietnam now. Somebody in Vietnam is going to buy goods, and the letter of credit is there and things. And then at the very late day, as we said, there's a problem, probably even natural disaster happening, and the person cannot pay for that reason, not being crook or whatever, but there's something that is unexpected. So the bank probably is not going to pay if it is not confirmed, but somebody else can. Somebody else, another bank, very new bank, even some business persons. So you can transfer the ownership of this to that person. Then it means you give the person the goods, and that person is going to pay later at the time that it should be paid, because the original buyer said, like, I don't know when I can pay because of this disaster. All right. So he cannot pay, even though the payment is not at once. Then the other guy here said, I can pay in, at the date being expected, even though I'm not the one who initiated the transaction. That's the transferable letter of credit. Revolving letter of credit, on the other hand, if you are sending goods, probably you have different goods altogether being sent. You are buying cars from China, buying phones from China, buying clothes from China. All these are in different containers. Normally, a letter of credit for cars might be different from a letter of credit for phones and clothes. But in this, when you are buying the revolving letter of credit, anything that you are dealing with is included. Okay, you can include everything. So that's revolving. Deferred or usance letter of credit is the one that is paid at what we call maturity date later, not now, probably after 90 days or whatever. Okay, so these are becoming increasingly popular, this usance letter of credit. It has agreed where the letter of credit has been agreed but the parties wish to avoid raising a bill of exchange under a letter of credit. You don't need a bill of exchange, it means. So then this is a kind of the letter of credit a lot of people have in mind when they are thinking of paying later. Okay. So when the correct documents are presented, the bank does not accept a bill of exchange, but instead gives a letter of undertaking advising when the money will be paid. So that's how it is done. It's with a kind of document which is called letter of undertaking. This is telling you what date this money is going to be paid to you if you are the one who is an exporter. Next is standby letter of credit. Just by the name, this is a kind of letter of credit you use for certain situations, but not always. In a way that is, it's a kind of auxiliary letter of credit. So firstly, where salary is trading on open account, as you know, open account is paid later in a transaction. It's not paid right away. But when this happens and they require some security of payment, then this open account is used with this letter of credit. It means that the business dealers have priority. They might say, oh, we just use the letter of credit, we just use the open account, but if the open account has a problem, we're going to add this power of letter of credit to make things secure. And that might be done within a timeline. Like in 20 days, if there is a problem, then that's when we use the letter of credit. They buy it, it's there, and it is a standing by letter of credit. It's not going to be used primarily. It's not going to be used as a priority. It's just used as a backup system to help them. So those are the types of letters of credit. Can be, a little long, but it's very, very important because you need to know what type of credit is existing, and then you're not going to buy the one that is not appropriate to your transaction. As one of our friends asked, what is the best way? What is the best products? The best products can also be whether in that product it's easy to use letter of credit, or people scarcely use it because it might require special documentation. And when the letter of credit is there, can we use it as a standby or a nuisance, for example, or revocable or irrevocable? So you need to know these, and then you do more research later when you forget what they are. But now you know there are several types. But before we move on, we need to know the letter of credit versus bill of exchange. How different is letter of credit as compared with bill of exchange? Very, very quickly, I guess, because we already, both of these were dealt with already. Just it's also a way of summarizing things. Now, a letter of credit is committed by the importer's bank. Importer's bank is the one who is taking charge of this letter of credit, which promises to pay the exporter a specific amount when the documents proving shipment of goods are presented. Okay, the documents proving shipping of goods are bill of lading and a lot of it that we talked about before. So the documents has a kind of precise instructions from the buyer of the goods, giving the seller authorization to draw a specific sum of money from his or her bank under certain conditions. Okay, so the letter is in the importer's bank, and then that importer's bank is being given an instruction by the importer to pay if there is any need, as long as the documentation are there. But bill of exchange is drawn up by the exporter, as you can see here, while letter of credit is drawn by the importer. Bill of exchange is drawn by the exporter, demanding payment from the importer at a specific time. So the point of start of bill of exchange is the exporter, and the point of reference of this letter of credit is the importer. That's what we need to know in there. They both involved in party, the bank, paying back, and whatever, was all these. So I think that is clear in this. So let's have a look at what banks are doing. Unlike remittance, which is what we said, TT is the best example we took there. A letter of credit enables the buyer to add some more layer of security by forcing the supplier to fulfill certain predetermined requirements before funds are transferred. In that case, it reduces the buyer side, the risk of the buyer side, the not receive. The risk of the buyer side is always relating to the fact that you probably do not receive goods. But the question we're asking here is, what is the condition of payment release? And that's what I also give you answer for here. Once they have received the required documents, the money is transferred. Okay, once they have received the necessary document, but remember, there are different types of letters of credit, all right? Some are, of course, every transaction is proven. The necessity of transaction, necessity of closing a deal relating to this is proven by the fact that you have all the necessary documentation. But it doesn't mean that you have the documentation, then you get paid, it depends on what type of credit you applied for. So this is to be something to be remembered. The average letter of credit will require drafts, because we're talking about what documentations can be helpful, can speed up transactions, can work as not hindering any chance to get ahead in business. So the drafts, that is bill of exchange, you need it in certain type of it, as we said before, not every type. Exports invoice. Okay, you explained the invoice before, and that type of invoice is important. Insurance policy or certificate and transport documents. These are the four important ones, but that doesn't mean that they are, it closes in that requirements. There are other things that might be needed. It's as we said here, it's entirely up to the two transactors, to two business persons, the exporter and importer, to negotiate which documents the latter must provide before transaction is made. You can understand from this that there's a kind of there's no real must-have here. A standard documentation might be there, but it can go beyond what is you see somewhere here. Like some people are happy with just these 4 items, and then you get your money, and it's secure. But other countries might require more, and they require almost always bill of lading is required, and it is issued on or before certain dates to avoid delays. Okay, before certain dates means you write it, a kind of predate thing. You write it, and then you in the writing, the date is not today, for example. Probably the date is what is today is Wednesday. Let's say, for example, if the due date is Monday, and probably somebody is adopting to that, like in order not to, and it is also to avoid mistakes. Some people might use it before the date, and then they just really, everything is a kind of dated in a late reference, like not today's date is used, but probably Friday's date. Okay, in that case, no one is going to use it before Friday. That's one thing. And then approval quality inspection reports, which is not always needed, but it can be to avoid shipment or defect items. You have that. And approved laboratory tests reports to avoid non-compliance in shipments items. So you have this test reports as well. If you are dealing with, let's say, chemical products, something that is of, chemical stuff, then laboratories often use to check the contents of it, whether it is basically for the importer to see whether the quantity is matching the requirements. Is it pure? Is it solid or whatever? All these. Now then, there are some risks in business, as we know already. We need to minimize risk here and there. The first solution for the exporter in avoiding risk is to ensure that letter of credit is acceptable, that it is received when it is received. Some letter of credit might not be acceptable because they are wrong. Okay, they are not from those types we were talking about. There's a kind of contradiction between the type and the requirements in a contract, for example. Then something is to be adjusted. So a number of organizations, including banks, will provide letter of credit check. In some organizations, that might be one service that is to be paid, but in others it's inclusive. And the documents are